we all have phones in our pockets, and there's advertisements everywhere. So it's safe to say it's gotten easier and easier to buy things. We can buy groceries, or furniture, or even a pet from across the country, all with our thumbs. We've been groomed to consume, but it can become mindful if we're not careful. You see, advertisements were designed to let us know that we don't have enough, that we're not thin enough, we're not rich enough, that we don't travel enough. They trick us into thinking that we need more. But we humans are no match against the marketing budgets and algorithms that figure out our shopping habits before we do. Now, this is no knock on the advertising industry, because capitalism is the real odds behind that curtain. And capitalism thrives on our perceived inadequacies. So when you feel like you don't have enough, you're more likely to shop, which makes a lot of companies happy. But are we? My experience has revealed to me that we might not be. So I grew up in a household of 3 wonderful people. It was myself, my older sister, and my mother. And though we bonded over many things over the years, one thing that we bonded over the most consistently was shopping. Shopping was our thing. It was fun and exciting, and we always walked away with something cute. And who doesn't like looking cute? So I remember a time when we would shop almost every single weekend. Good times, simpler times, really. So cut to me in college, where there's no surprise that I got retail jobs. I, of course, love fashion, and I'd get a nice little discount in the places where I worked. I would shop so much at my job that I essentially was just working in exchange for clothes, but I was fine with it. And then one year, I took a trip to London to visit family. I was there for about 2 weeks, and I saw all the sights and ate all the things, but one thing I did daily was, you guessed it, shop. I bought so much on that trip that I had to buy new luggage to bring all my new clothes home. Yeesh, right? So it wasn't until after college that I realized that I had a shopping addiction, the A word. Now, that was self-diagnosed, of course, because no one really talks about shopping being a problem. I was buried in credit card debt, but I always just found a reason to shop for an event or a party or at any sale. If you pick a sale, I was probably there at that sale. So I knew I had a problem when one day after a usual shopping trip, I came home and I just felt the weight of everything in that moment. And I just broke down crying. The weight that I'm talking about is the weight of the debt that I was carrying that shopping contributed to. And how I just went against my own better judgment, and I just couldn't resist the urge to shop. It felt like I was out of control. That's the day that shopping was no longer fun for me. So after that breakdown, I came across a documentary that talked about the environmental impact of the fashion industry. Now, I won't get into all the details, but I'll say that the fashion industry can be extremely wasteful, and that has a negative impact on the environment. And when I saw the documentary, I can see how my shopping habits contributed to the overall global problem. You know, they talk about the ills of single-use plastic these days. Well, unfortunately, I had a bunch of single-use outfits. So after seeing the documentary, I slowed down a lot. And if I needed to buy clothes, they came by way of thrift shopping or consignment shopping, or my favorite, swapping with friends. Today, I'd say about 80% of my wardrobe consists of pre-loved clothes. Now, I do want to say here that there was a time that when I was growing up that thrift shopping wasn't the cool thing to do. If you couldn't afford to buy a new outfit or new sneakers, you were judged, either to your face or behind your back. Today, I'm happy to go thrift shopping. I'm happy to flip that narrative for myself and for my family. Albeit time-consuming, there's supreme fashion freedom in thrift shopping. You can find what matches your personal style, as opposed to what big retailers dictate what's in fashion and what's not. Not to mention, it's mega marked down and super sustainable. Highly recommend. But unfortunately, after having my first daughter, I found myself slipping into my old shopping habits once again. Now, from the outside looking in, it makes sense that a new mom might be shopping for her new baby. Fair. But I found a reason to be in the baby store every single day for about 2 or 3 months. Now, that was a familiar itch creeping back in again. And I didn't want to have another episode or another breakdown, so I wanted to find out why it was creeping in again. So, after a little introspection and some research online, I determined that I was experiencing postpartum depression. Being a new mom is tough. And I was shopping to make myself feel better. And then looking back at all the shopping I was doing in college, well, my dad died freshman year, and I was shopping to fill an unfillable dad-sized hole in my heart. I shopped to cope with my grief. And all that shopping I did in London, it coincided with a breakup I was going through. So I was shopping to mend my broken heart. Now, at the time, I didn't make the connection between my pain and my shopping. I just didn't know. But what I do know today is that retail therapy is not real therapy. Therapy is therapy. No substitutions. Retail therapy is something that we tell ourselves we need when we have probably a bigger issue going on that we're not facing head on. When I was shopping, I had a bigger issue that I wasn't facing head on. And I'll admit, shopping literally feels good. So you got a new thing that you're getting, you got your endorphins pumping, there's instant gratification, there's chemistry behind it all, in more ways than one. And I'll also add, the accumulation of things is deceivingly comforting. And whether it's comfort shopping, you might have heard of comfort eating. They're just about as common as each other, but comfort shopping hides in plain sight. And you look like you have it all together. And whether it's comfort shopping or comfort eating, they all fit under the umbrella of what I call comfort commerce. Now, this can include, but it's not limited to, food or clothes, or watches, shoes for some, artwork. Some people take a lot of classes, or even travel. When it becomes excessive or harmful to your budget or your overall goals, that's when it's time to take a look at what's happening underneath. Because we all have a lot of stuff. The self-storage industry in the US is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And it's reported that 1 in 10 households currently rent a self-storage unit. But it's no surprise that we have so much stuff because the system is set up for us to continue to buy. We've got the marketing and the algorithms and the endorphins and the instant gratification and keeping up with the Joneses and doing it for the gram. Yeah, it's an uphill battle that I have fought and lost many, many times. So I personally was in the midst of starting a sustainable fashion line just last year when I decided that we don't need another fashion line, even if it's sustainable. We don't need more stuff. We have a lot of it. So I thought, why don't we just keep what we already have? So instead of starting a fashion line, I decided to start an on-demand tailoring and alterations company to reshift the focus from consumption to preservation and reclamation. Keeping your clothes longer does a lot for the environment, or so I've learned. Now, I'm not saying don't buy anything ever again, but I do want us to be more mindful about our consumption on all levels. What we buy, what we eat, what we consume in the media, because they're all related. You know, it's quite possible to be scrolling in your timeline and see something that's upsetting, sad, or makes you feel like you don't have enough, and then keep scrolling, go about your day, and then later buy something that you really don't need, but it feels good in the moment, and then not make the connection between the two things. It's just that easy. It's our mindless consumption that's delaying our financial goals, negatively impacting the environment, and more importantly, distracting us from what's going on inside. Now, I like to call myself a reformed shopaholic, proudly standing in front of you today. And in my proverbial road to recovery, I've seen documentaries, read books, read articles about healthy shopping habits. I thought, I like shopping, just make it healthier, right? And they have advice like, do you love it? Do you need it? Does it spark joy? Will you wear it 30 times? Those are great for the most part. But as I'm learning with Comfort Commerce, we have to go a lot deeper. We have to ask ourselves questions like, is this an impulse or emotional buy? What have you eaten today? Or not? How has your week been? And how many hours are you spending on social media? And if we really want to go deep, if you're ready to go there, we ask ourselves questions like, where is this desire coming from? Where is it rooted? And is this thing that I'm buying going to fix or heal that? Most times the answer is no. But hey, if it's rooted in joy or love or fulfillment and you can afford it, please have at it. You probably deserve it. But just to illustrate how much we're spending, in the span of my 14-minute talk today, Americans spent over $9.7 million just on clothing alone. It's about time we get more mindful about our consumption because our personal, financial, and environmental futures depend on it. Thank you.